I'm so excited. I've been out door knocking, I've been out doing voter outreach, but I didn't want to skip this episode. I'm going to be going live with Christy Narcy, who is the CEO and superintendent of the Freedom Academy. So, this is the Voice of the People live stream, and I want to welcome my guest, Christy, today.
Oh,
Welcome,
thank
Christy.
you. Thank you, Sandra. What a pleasure to be talking with you. And thank you for getting voices out and introducing new voices to your community. It was great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our paths keep crossing, and that's a good thing, right? Because we have a mission to make education better in Arizona, but just to support families as well. Wouldn't you agree?
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. That is part of why school exists to partner with families to educate our kids. Yeah.
And one of the things I always say is that in order for students to do well, we can't pit parents and teachers. Parents and teachers have to partner in order for our kids to really thrive in education. And so I am really excited for you to tell us about the Freedom Academy.
Yeah, well, Freedom Academy is a great K through 8 charter school in North Phoenix. My daughters graduated from 10 and 11 years ago. It's crazy how time flies. So they're all grown up. And I've served on the board of the school that entire time. And I just recently, for the first time, stepped down as president of the board and stepped in as superintendent and CEO. And so it's a new venture, but it's just so fun. And Freedom Academy, our goal is to develop students in three things: integrity, honor, and leadership. Integrity, honor, leadership. Yeah, no, that's what attracted me to the school because in many ways, as a school, yes, you're educating, but you're also providing, you have a lot of influence and a moral foundation for students. And so we do that. We develop them in integrity, honor, and leadership. We do it by ensuring that every child feels safe, known, and cared for. Safe, known,
Love
and
it.
cared for. Yeah, that's something our principal, she was talking one day about, "I'm a parent, how would I feel? How do I want my kids to feel? What am I looking for in a school?" And it just rolled off her tongue, "I want them to feel safe, known, and cared for." And I said, "That's it.
Mhm.
That's it. That's what every parent
Well,
wants."
when parents send their kids to school, we always expect the basics that they know how to read, write, and do math, science, and have some extracurriculars, but we expect them to be safe. And so please tell us how you keep your kids at Freedom Academy safe.
I love that you asked that because we have a really just a great team that's really focused on that because safety is very, very important to us. And we're kind of the mindset that we're not going to tell you all of our tricks because we don't want them all out there. But know that we are very, very concerned about safety at our school. And so we have safety plans in place. But safety is also about community and, making the children, when we say known, we know every individual student, which means we also know who's not supposed to be there, right? And safety,
Exactly.
it's also about their wellness and their well-being. It's making sure that they, when we say that they're known, we're talking about we know their name, we know their family's name. Every teacher knows every student's name, even if that student isn't in their class. But we also know what their needs are. We know what their strengths are. We know where they need help and support and improvement. And so, but all of that, and then being cared for, we care that they're there every single day. They're cared for. So all of that equals safety too, right?
Yes, absolutely. And you and I are women of faith. And so I love that because we are seen, found, and chosen by our creator. And so I'm seeing a lot of that weaved into what you're saying about Freedom Academy. So can you tell me more about your mission and vision of, and it's a tuition free charter, is that correct?
It is. It's a tuition-free public charter school, and so, yes, I live by faith, as you do, and of course, as a superintendent and CEO, I take a nonpartisan, non-religious stance, but to your point also, our values, they cross almost any religion, right? Safe, known, cared for. That's how we want to make kids feel. So, yeah. And the other thing that we really do focus a lot on is we want our students to pursue excellence, merit based opportunity.
That
And we want them to carry a deep love of country and a service for others. So we do a lot of focus on what America means, what it is. We have a pledge to parents that we created. We'll talk about in a minute, but I want to point out that one of the things we've pledged to parents is we're going to give our kids the full history of their country. The good and the bad. We're not editing it for some sort of weird agenda. We are helping them understand why America made it to 250 years and is still the best country on earth. And we want them to have a heart for service to others, whether that's service or service in their church or in their community, whatever that looks like, that they learn how to love and value and serve other people. And that's what leadership is,
Oh,
right?
I love that because we aren't on this planet just to take up space. We're here to pour into each other, pour into the next generation, and to lift each other up when somebody has fallen down or somebody needs mentoring. And I know you and I are really big on mentoring, right? So who in your life has helped you, and do you have anybody that you've considered a mentor that's gotten you to this point where you're at now?
That is a fantastic question. Do you know? So yesterday was my 48th birthday. So I'm feeling good about that. Yeah, 48. And I say that because when I was 19, I got married at 19. And at 20, my husband and I attended a leadership conference. And it was John Maxwell. I don't know if you know John Maxwell, but he is considered the guru of the world in leadership. He's written over 80 books about leadership. And I heard him talk about leadership, and it hit a chord with me because I remember being young as, one of my first jobs, I was 16 years old when I was hired as a bank teller at a bank, and that was kind of a big deal for being 16, you know? And so I was hired, and I remember thinking to myself, not all leaders and managers are nice people." And so, even though I was young, right, I was young, but I was right. So so
Absolutely.
once I heard John speak, I said, I want to be the type of leader that people want to follow, not because they have to, but because they want to, because they too feel safe, known, and cared for. There's psychological safety in the organizations that I create, and the people that I hire, and the teams that I work with. And so I implemented everything he ever wrote, said, and did, and then I got to meet him, about a decade ago. He ended up creating a program that you can get licensed in, so I've been a licensed leadership coach, speaker, and, trainer for years now. Yeah, and I literally on leadership, what does it mean to lead others? The hardest person to lead is me, right? So I had to lead
Yes.
myself well, and leadership is about adding value to other people, so yeah, good question.
So you and I have known each other for a number of years. I don't even know how long or where our paths crossed, but I know that you've always been really driven to do coaching, speaking, and so can you tell us about what drove you to be drawn to this coaching, speaking, writing about organizational leadership and things that you're doing in your life, from 10 years ago to now? What drove you to do this?
Well, I'll tell you, I see the same thing everywhere I go, whether I've worked in a nonprofit, I did vocational ministry for many years, whether I'm working with other sorts of nonprofits or for profit organizations, the same thing always happens, that there are leaders that have not yet unlocked the importance of emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Emotional intelligence, how people smarts. How do you relate to others? How do you show up? How do you take from others, or do you add to them? Are you do you invest in the relationship of the boss of your boss, right? And those around you. And so things like that. And I noticed as I started working with organizations, this is prior to being in the education space, working with bipartisan organizations, it was the same thing. It's like, I don't know if you are all grasping how much greater your influence could be. if you worked on emotional intelligence, right? Your capacity to relate to people well, to learn how to not over emote, right? When working with
Right.
people, how to not under emote and check out, things like that. And so in my own life and through all of the trauma that I had to overcome and learn those types of skills, I realized, man, if I could pass any of that along to others. And what I knew was when you influence and build up leaders, you're actually building up everyone, right? Because those leaders take those skills and they impact the people that follow them. I find it super interesting, especially in your line of work. You know, I would say a lot of candidates don't realize as soon as you have started a campaign, you just started a small business. Right? I mean, you're running an organization. And so I like to do what I can to build up any sort of civic leader so that we can create good places to work for people, that people can feel like I go to work and I'm valued there and I love doing what I do and who I do it with. So,
Absolutely. And when I was a young girl, my father owned a grocery store, and so I've been working from a very young age, 7, 8 years old. And my dad and my mom did not go to college, so I was first generation college grad. But one thing that they instilled in me is to treat people with respect and do a good job and just work as hard as you can. And I think, it's kind of a little bit of old school mentality, but I carry that in everything I do. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And I'm going to work really hard to make it successful. Now, that does not mean that everything that I do is successful, but it does mean that I'm gonna pour it all out there. I'm gonna put it all out, and I'm gonna succeed in one way or another. And sometimes succeeding isn't what you think it is. It might take you on a different path, and even though you don't complete a certain task, like for instance, I went to veterinary school. I did not complete my doctorate. This was after I had already had a career in information technology, but the Lord had other plans for me, better plans because I had a baby during that time, and it was really hard to get through, UC Davis School of Vet Med, and my four-year program is a four-year doctorate, one of the hardest and best veterinary schools in the world. Older student and with the baby, but with that, he just equipped me, and I couldn't be happier of how my life turned out. I always joke that I still don't know at 57 what I wanna do when I grow up because I'm like you, I just, like, keep going, and the Lord keeps opening doors, giving me more opportunities, and right now, I'm in politics, which I never in my wildest dreams thought I would ever do this, but everything in my life has led me to today because I do have strong leadership skills. I've worked 30 years in information technology, Fortune 100 companies like Honeywell and startups, and it's everything that have put in to this day in my life is gotten me to this point. And so I really love your mission because I think the reason my camping is going so well, even though I am primarying a couple of people, incumbents, but people just come around somebody that is authentic and that really cares. And I, like you, have a heart of service, and that's my drive. I just want to make things better. My number one is to make school centers of academic excellence, and that's why I really wanted to talk to you today because I know we have that in common. So can you please tell us more about why Freedom Academy is just an amazing place to have your children educated?
I'm so glad you asked because I'm so excited about what we have in store for the school. So, when you and I met, I was actually working for a nonpartisan organization that did a lot of model policy, if you will, for schools, other things like that. And so, Independent Women is the name of the organization. And while I was employed there, I'm not anymore. I came to our team and I said, "Hey, I said, parents are really struggling with trust. They're not trusting education right now. And we have a lot of great organizations that are getting all the parents together and saying, hey, we demand our rights be respected. And I love that, right? They should be doing that. But I said, where are the schools? Surely there are schools out there that are willing to put their neck out there a little bit and say, actually, we agree with you. we know parents have the right to know what their children are learning, and schools have the responsibility to tell them, right? And so together with their team, we drafted together the first of its kind pledge to parents. And so this is a national call for schools to reaffirm what should never have been lost to begin with, a true partnership between schools and families. Schools exist to serve, not sideline the people raising the next generation. Period.
Into that.
Yeah, and so that means, and for us, that means protecting childhood, standing for truth, putting an end to harmful political agendas in the classroom. And so we have created this pledge. I brought it to our board. We were the first school in the nation to take the pledge. We passed it unanimously as a board. And I'm just so excited about what the pledge actually says, because we have committed to several things that probably most schools wouldn't, maybe not. Hopefully they will. Hopefully they'll change their mind. We're happy going first, you know. But to give you a brief overview, we have committed to academic excellence and eliminating the politicization of education. Period.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
Because, and you know as well as I, as part of why you're running, the latest nation's report card demonstrates we have a dire need to focus on student proficiency in core
Yes.
subjects, not
Yeah.
political material, not ideology, not gender identity. I'm telling you right now, we have 10 commitments in our pledge, and one of them we just came out and said, Sandra, we said we acknowledge biological reality.
Wow,
We are a
that's amazing.
Yeah, we're a free public charter school that has said we acknowledge biological reality. We've additionally said that we won't perform medical diagnosis on students, social and mental health interventions without parental consent. That's not our place or our role. And we will never coerce a child to keep secrets from their parents or to use language that violates their religious belief.
What a breath of fresh air. So I'm going to share a little bit about how I got into education. Once I left UC Davis School of Vet Med, we moved back to Arizona and I started working for a lovely hospital in downtown Phoenix. And my son was elementary school. So first through third. We moved to Paradise Valley Unified when he was until into third grade. And then I noticed some struggles and a little bit of bullying because we moved from Avondale, which was a lower socioeconomic town and school district, where I was working during the day and he was staying with his godparents that lived there. When my husband came back from California and we bought our own home, we moved to North Scottsdale. But one of the things that I saw was my son was struggling, and it wasn't really academically struggling, but just he seemed sad all the time. It turns out he was getting bullied, so I had to leave work early several times, and it got to the point where and it was a point when my husband was traveling a lot. He just said, "Is it even worth it for you to work?" So I left my job, and so I went part-time first, but then I started seeing some other things, and I ended up quitting my job, and because I am a hard worker and I get bored easily, I started volunteering in the classroom. One of the things that I noticed is they kept recommending that my son be put on medication because he wouldn't sit still. And I kind of pushed, I not kind of, I pushed back and said, "Well, are you a doctor?" And they're like, "No, but he might be ADHD and maybe some Ritalin." And I thought, well, how is he doing academically? Oh, well, he's got great grades. Well, it sounds like he may need some more recess or just more stimulation. And so it turned out that he was just bored. He's super smart, but fidgety, but he's a boy. Boys need activity. They need to play out recess. And I started asking questions when I was volunteering in the classroom, and he wouldn't even eat lunch because he had such limited time to go out for recess. So he would just get his lunch and then basically dump it and go play because that's what he needed in order to, get his mind and body acclimated. But, we cannot have somebody that is not a doctor and not a parent diagnose something for a child. And so I'm really happy to hear you say that because it's so important. Parents are the ones that have the right to direct education, upbringing, health, mental health of their own children. And so It's very fortunate that we have one of the strongest parental bills of rights in the nation here in Arizona. So it really aligns with with Freedom Academy and what you're doing. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It's so funny because this is one of those things where you go, "I can't believe we have to say this out loud." This should be obvious, right? But it hasn't been obvious. And so we just wanted to bridge that gap of, "Hey, we're gonna be completely transparent with all things that relate to your child's well-being." And I love your story because that really just goes to show it's just a conversation between the admin, the parent, and the student, and saying, "Hey, what does the day look like? Let's troubleshoot what's happening in his little world," right? Because the other issue is if he's throwing his lunch away, then in the afternoon, he doesn't have what he needs to sustain attention then
Nutrients. Yeah.
either. No nutrients, right? So nothing's landing with him, you know? So I love that. It just open conversation. You know, we talk to our teachers about building relationships deliberately and on purpose with the parents, not being afraid of them. The parents really, by and large, do want what's best, not just for their students. I sat with a dad the other day and he just said, "Look, I'm not asking you to make every special whatever I ask because my kid's different. I just need to know that you're hearing what I'm saying." It's like, absolutely. Yeah. He's there for the other students too, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then we're going to go back. And I don't mean to throw like my school district under the bus or anything. The reason I tell that story time and time again is because sometimes we as parents have outsourced the raising of our children to the schools. And so for me, I was blessed enough to be able to quit my job and to be able to work in the classroom to see what was going on. Not everybody has that luxury. And I think the teacher, to her credit, just wanted the best for my son, but I knew enough to push back but you and I we vibrate a little bit higher than a lot of people, and we are strong and we will push back if we don't think that's what's best for our child. But some parents don't, either they don't have time, they're two working parents, or they don't know that it's okay to push back and it's okay to demand what you, and not in a non-respectful way, because again, sometimes teachers are doing a good job and us as parents are a little bit too overzealous, like, not my kid wouldn't do that. So again, going back to that partnership. And so it sounds like that's what you all are doing at Freedom Academy. Wouldn't you agree?
absolutely, absolutely, an absolute partnership, and you know, to your point, there are parents that, you know, maybe they're not being as nice or they're not really facing reality that their child might have, you know, a discipline issue, and we need to work together to figure that out. But one of the things I've noticed, and I'm telling you, across the board, interviewing teachers that are leaving other schools and other districts, do you know what they're saying? Is they're saying we give a consequence and the child goes to the principal's office and the principal gives them a donut and sends them back to class. And so
Yes, they're
we
not being
said,
supported.
that's right.
The
And so
teachers
we
are not.
said, wait a minute. First of all, you're not supporting your staff when you're doing that. You need to stand behind your teachers. Two, there's nothing wrong with helping parents become better parents, especially for those of us. I'm in this position. I've raised kids. So I know what kids try to pull over on us. Okay. When you give it
There's
an
no
inch,
perfect
they
parent.
will
There's
take.
no perfect
Yeah,
parents.
exactly. Yeah, and you give a child an inch from the time they're a toddler to 18, they will take a mile. Like, it's just reality. It's not mean, it's reality, you know? And so we decided, you know, we've got a code of conduct. We are gonna live by it. Parents see it, it's completely out in the open, they sign it, they agree. We say, "Okay, we've agreed on the terms. If a child does this, this is what happens." And it has to be fair. It can't be a child. This child did this, but they got off and this one no, 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 no. That's liability all the way around, right? For the school, it makes it difficult for the parent, the kids are completely confused. He gets away with
Right.
it, you know. So discipline has been just a really interesting topic. It's been lost over the last several years. Um,
Yes.
I'm just not even afraid to say it. We're more traditional. We don't allow back talk. You don't get to back talk us. I mean, I just because they will do it. They will take you in circles, right? They will, "Well, why this? Why that?" No back talk here. There's no
So
cussing. There's no
it sounds like the adults are back in charge, because in some instances, we've allowed kids to decide, what do you want? I want to help you, but we've kind of turned it on its head. And we have to remember that they're still children. Their brains are not fully developed until they're 25. So the parents and the teachers, administrators have to be the adults in the room, not at the
Exactly.
whim of the student. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Well,
very, very simple. And when you create those boundaries, you create that sense of safety. And when you smother it in love, they know that they're loved, they know they're cared for, they will fall into it and they will feel safe and they'll do better. They will reach the standard that we put on them. So that's the way. It's always been the way. It hasn't changed. We're back to the basics.
100%. Well, just want to thank you, Christy, for coming on today. It's always such a pleasure. Every time we talk, we just I feel like you're a long lost sister or something. And you actually know my sister from New Mexico, right?
I
My
do.
sister Laura.
Yep, she fantastic.
So I would love for you in the last couple minutes just to share with our viewers how they can find Freedom Academy, what's the enrollment like, and just details about wait lists or anything.
Yeah.
You take ESA. Oh, you don't need to because it's a free charter. So scratch that last question. But just tell us how we can find you.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually really do support ESA. So there you go. There's a plug for that. I think there's a great place for all forms of education, and so I'm a supporter of the ESA program. And we understand that us as a charter school, we're the last best thing between parents who have to decide, am I going to homeschool or can I even do it? And so we want to meet that need. We are homeschool friendly. So you can find our school at freedomacademyaz.org. Again, I'll stress that we are nonpartisan, obviously, and that we don't endorse candidates, as well as Independent Women, their organization that helps with they don't endorse candidates, but we definitely like to work with people who are for education and wanna make it better and, are looking to really to serve the community the way the community deserves to be served, so
Absolutely. Well, that's just wonderful. Well, I just want to thank my guest, Christy Narcy. She is the CEO and superintendent of Freedom Academy. We had wonderful conversation. Her and I align on a lot of things, but especially in education. We want schools to become centers of academic excellence. So I'm signing off. This has been the Voice of the People podcast for today. And if you haven't voted, I want to encourage everybody to, make sure if you do mail-in ballots that they should already be in your inbox. But it's very important to vote in midterms, not just presidential elections. So this is Sandra Christensen with Christy signing off on the Voice of the People live stream.